Melissa, and I'm sharing my journey through mental illness. And as a part of Suicide Prevention Week, I have decided to share my history with suicide ideation. It's something that began as an early teen for me and grew into sort of this monster around the time I was about 16 years old. And I had a pretty intense past with abuse, trauma, sexual assault, things of that nature, and my mental health was at that time an all-time low, and I was experiencing these feelings of worthlessness and maybe it would be better if I wasn't here. Maybe it would be easier if I just ended it all. Those types of feelings that are common with suicidal ideation. And, I was 16 years old. I didn't really know a whole lot about a whole lot. But I did know, that I'd experienced so much hurt and so much pain that I didn't know if it was ever going to get better. I thought, if I'm gonna live like this for the rest of my life, is it really worth it? And I sort of just started forming this, plan of how I was going to do it and how I was going to end my own life. And it was a very traumatic time for me. I was very low. I still saw my friends, I still went and did things, but, behind closed doors, I was sort of preparing for the end of my own life. And, the thing that sort of kept me from doing it every time I sort of went to, follow through with this plan is, thinking of my mother, thinking of my family, what it would do to them if I chose to do that. And I think those thoughts kept me alive for quite a while. But one night I was in a particularly tough spot. I had just experienced a sexual assault, and it was a pretty traumatic experience for me, and it just, it had plunged me into an even deeper low than I was experiencing, and I was going to do it. I was going to follow through with the suicide, and I had a plan. I had it all, put together, and I was going to write a note. I was going to do all those things. But I'd remembered something that my mom had said. I'd remembered something that I'd learned growing up, and that was about God and the scriptures and sort of that truth. And I wasn't extremely religious at this point in time. I had sort of fallen away from my faith and had gotten into a lot of trouble and just, was not doing the things that I should have been doing. And although I was in such a dark place, I still remembered those things that I had learned. At this time, it was kind of like a Hail Mary for me in my life, and I decided to give it one last chance, and I decided to pray. And I hadn't prayed a ton around that time, or at all, really. But I decided, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot. Maybe it's true. Maybe God is there and he loves me and he does exist, and maybe that would be enough to keep me alive. Maybe that would be enough of a reason to stay alive. So I got down next to my bed and I prayed, and I just asked him, please, if there's anything, if you're there, just let me know. If you have a plan for me, if there's something real to all of this, just let me know. Please, because if not, I don't know if I can go on any longer. I don't know, if this is all just meaningless. I don't know if I can take it anymore. I don't know if it's worth doing anymore. And during my prayer, I had the thought to open my scriptures after. So I opened up my little side cabinet and dusted off my scriptures. Hadn't been touched in quite a while, and I opened it up, and the first page that I read, it was almost like it was highlighted, the section that I read. But I read it, and it felt like it was just speaking to my soul. Everything that I needed to hear in that moment was right there on the page. And I all of a sudden, for the first time in so long, had this hope. And I think that a lot of times we take hope for granted. But at that time I didn't have any. I didn't have any hope. And so to feel even that small little bit of it meant the world to me. And the scripture sort of, it just outlined, you know, for me, like what I needed to do in my life, and you know, what I needed to become. And it was just the perfect scripture for what I needed at that time. And so I took that as a huge sign from God that he was there, that he was real, that he was answering my prayer, and that I had a reason to live. And so from there, it just sort of grew, and it wasn't easy. It was a long process, but I started, you know, slowly improving things in my life. I stopped doing some of those things that I knew were wrong and that that weren't serving me or anyone else. And I started to, you know, try to be a better friend to others, and just slow improvements I started to make in my life. And it changed my life forever. That moment, that one pivotal moment, set me on a completely different course. Up until that point, I was headed towards complete darkness and the end of my life. And after that moment, I was completely turned around and headed towards the light. And it was a struggle, and I wavered, and I struggled through it all, but ever since that point, I've never really turned back. And I look at that point in my life as a very pivotal moment that changed the course of my story. It led to me eventually, when I was 19 years old, to serve a full-time mission for my faith. For 18 months, I spoke in the Spanish language and taught about God and the gospel and the truth. And I decided to do that because of my experience, because I wanted to find someone out there that was going through something like I had, and hopefully be that be that person that could relate and know what they're going through. And I decided to serve a mission mainly for that purpose, to find that someone that was struggling like I had, and hopefully introduce them to this light that I had found. I learned that day that even in the darkest moment, there is hope and there is light, and that he is there, and that he does have a plan for us, and that he loves us so much, and that there is meaning to this life, and there is, purpose for why we are here. We all have a collective reason why we're here, but we also have individual reasons why we're here. And finding that reason, finding that purpose is so valuable and so monumental, and can change the course of your life forever if you can just find that purpose. I am so grateful for that experience and for the light that it brought into my life. I'm so grateful that I made the decision to live and to not give in to that darkness. I would have missed out on the most amazing life if I had given in. It has been so challenging to stay alive, but it has been so worth it. The things that I've experienced, my husband, my children, the life that we've built together, my mission, the things that I learned there, the people that I met and experienced life-changing moments with. I would have missed out on so many things if I would have given in to the darkness. And I'm so grateful that I didn't. I know that suicide is a serious thing, and that, it's not always black and white. And people who experience it and actually go through with it, we don't know what was going on in their mind, and we don't know how accountable they are for that. It's called death by suicide for a reason. So I think love and compassion for people who have done that, and for the people they've left behind who have struggled through, that experience is so important. And raising awareness about this topic is so important. It's so prevalent in our world today, and it's such a challenging thing. I have experienced the loss of people who have died by suicide, and to see the wake that is left behind, the struggle of the people that loved them, is so deep and so heartbreaking. And all they need is your love. All they need is your compassion and understanding and a shoulder to cry on. For those people that are experiencing suicidal ideation and planning for that, they need the same. They need love, compassion, a shoulder to cry on, someone to tell them that there is hope, light, and worth in their life. And hopefully they can see it and find it and see it for themselves. It's one thing for someone to tell you those things, but it's another for you to experience it internally. And I think it's important for people who have loved ones that, have passed from suicide, to not feel that guilt that is often felt, because often there's not much, you could have done. I'm so grateful that I chose to live, and that I had that choice, and that I was able to make that choice, and I was in a good enough place circumstantially to make that choice. And I hope that if anyone out there is watching this that's feeling those things and experiencing something similar, that they'll give it a minute and think about it and try to find that light in their own life in whatever way they need to do that. I hope they do it, and I hope that they stay alive and stay with us. And it's so challenging and such a hard thing to do, just to simply live when you are in that frame of mind. But I promise you that if you just give it a little more time and fight for the light, and to see that and to obtain that in your own life, that it's possible. I am proof that it's possible to find that light again. I was on the precipice of suicide, and I had zero hope and zero light, but somehow, miraculously, I was saved from that moment. I was given an out, an option to live, and I took it, and I hope that you take it too. There is worth and value in living. There is light and love out there for you, and I hope you go and find it.